very good evening to all. Welcome to our exciting session lineup for you all. First, I would like to welcome our moderator for the session, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, Auto India Automated. Let us begin our fireside chat on tech integration to drive change. The perspective by welcoming on board our speaker, Mr. Manish Gupta, Group Chief Information Officer, Aditya Birla Group. I would request all the delegates to post their question in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. The speaker and the moderator. Over to you, Mr. Pranjal. Thank you.
Thank you, and warm welcome to all of you joining us now, and great welcome to Manish as well. Manish, you have quite a tremendous task and a lot of responsibility on your shoulder to manage the technology needs and security needs of a conglomerate as large as the Aditya Birla Group, which spans across commodities, retail, finance, etc. We'd like to understand more about how you're coping in the current situation. What is the current plan? How are you managing the situation? Plus your long-term strategy for deploying technology across so many different verticals. So perhaps maybe we could talk about what's happening now, and then from that we could extract and talk about what could be the next few years looking like. Now, the last 12 to 18 months have been a great challenge for everybody, Manish. Are there any specific learnings and steps that you had to take to ensure that the group's governance and security, etc., were really the urgent needs which came up? How were they met?
No, thank you, Pranjal, and very happy to be part of this wonderful conference, though virtually. So, hi everyone, and hope you and families are keeping safe. These are very unprecedented times, but I think we all need to cope up with all bravery and all confidence moving forward. So I think, Pranjal, as all businesses in India, of course, these are unprecedented times. We being a very large conglomerate, we also have a responsibility towards the society, our people in general, apart from running our business successfully. So we are trying to balance both. We have really focused on people. We are very empathetic to the current situation, and taking all measures to keep our people safe, because that comes paramount in our business ethics, and we are putting all efforts to keep our people safe, because that's very important. Now, given the challenge, as you said, it's unprecedented, so it has thrown up a lot of challenges. And right now it's a second wave, and we learned a lot in wave one last year, where we could, quickly react to the situation. We could develop alternate business models. We could connect with our customers in a virtual way. We could look at the supply chains in very different manner. We could operate our manufacturing facilities in a remote way as well, and keep our employees safe by giving lots of tools and flexibility in the workplace. And I think now also we are continuing the same, to be honest. And we have not done anything very specific this time, but are really deploying what we had developed last year. And of course, Customer Connect remains at the top of our mind. So we have digital connect platforms in almost all our businesses. Our supply chains can run again in a digital way. And what has happened is that a lot of technologies which were lying dormant, in our box, have suddenly come to life, and they're really helping us cope up with the challenge. And of course, but having said that, I won't say there are no challenge. Our teams, a lot of members fall sick. There's always a continuous challenge to keep them safe, get them motivated. Our partners who work with us very, very closely, again, have the same share of challenge. So we can't even, be tough on them as well. But in these times, I think as a strategy, what we are doing is we are keeping ourselves and our employees very focused. What we are telling is focus on the right things. Don't spread yourself too thin, because it's not possible right now. And when you talk of focus, of course, focus is internally for us is heavy on security, as you rightly said, because these are times a lot of people may take advantage. So I'll really urge everyone who is listening to this to be really focused on security, because you never know, and the cost of an incident could be very high if you don't take care. Focus and don't lose focus on your long term. Keep talking and keep that optimism in your heart, because that will go a long way. So,
That's a good introduction of the various things that you have initiated. But let's go into this one by one, Manish. You mentioned supply chain, and absolutely critical here. Can you share a couple of examples of how you managed to keep the supply chain going? And you said very interestingly that technologies which were dormant, perhaps there in the group, but not adequately utilized, probably came to the forefront. So do you have an example of two on how the group rose to the challenge of managing supply chain, and what kind of technologies were applied?
yeah, I think we are looking at multiple touchless technologies in the entire value chain. I won't call it supply chain anymore. So right from connecting to our suppliers, how you can do it digitally, including when our trucks come in, how do you weigh them without any manual intervention? How you can invert the material in a digital way as well, and how you can analyze the quality, etc., by using multiple video-enabled technologies which you have deployed. So there are a plethora of, I would say, technologies which we are using to do it. And planning goes a long way in this. Again, when times are tough, you need to plan well. And I think our investments we have done in our planning tools in the past are really coming very handy.
But it's not just about you, Manish. It's also about collaborating and helping your vendor ecosystem to perhaps also lift their game, because you may be, strong enough to improve and deploy latest technologies, but the challenge, of course, must have been to work with so many different other companies who are part of your value chain.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And some of our businesses have very large, I would say, kind of ecosystem of partners, and we have been connecting with them digitally over the past. So it's not new what we are doing right now. So I think some of the measures we had taken around our basics, what we call the brilliant basics, are really now coming to our advantage. And as long as we continue to use those technologies, I think we are able to connect with our customers as well as manage the supply chain. So I think it's more around people's initiative, how they can use those technologies, how they can work from home. And one of the things which is coming very handy is enablement of our workforce who don't need to be in offices to operate these systems. And this may sound small, but sometimes that may become a bottleneck. If you don't you don't have basics like good cloud technologies, you don't have basics like VPN services, you don't have the right laptops. So these look like very basic things, but I think investments in those things also come very handy at these times.
What about manufacturing? Work from home is possible for services sector, and I'm sure the finance part of your group would have coped easier, would have found it easier to cope with this with connected technologies. But manufacturing still requires physical presence. How did you take care of that?
No, again, as I said, a lot of manufacturing these days can also be done remotely. You can operate a plant remotely, especially in process side, where there's a lot more automation. Discrete is again where you require a lot of manual labor. But idea is you cannot eliminate them fully, but you can always optimize and you can keep people safe. And you'll be surprised if you really dig deep to find out how many of the operations can be done remotely. What we assume unless somebody has to fix something with hands, on an assembly line, which is a different story. But otherwise, a lot of material flow can also happen in a virtual way. So remote operations, again, remote operations capabilities. I think most of our plants do have it, and they
Did
keep.
you have those capabilities earlier and you use them, or did you have to rush in to put those capabilities when, for example, lockdown happened?
Yeah, I think we augmented them. I won't say we created from scratch, but we did augment them last year, and this time they are coming very handy for us, of course.
But in now, talking about a little bit more medium and long term, and as a strategy for the group, how important is now technology? Because it used to be, of course, that technology was one small part of any company, but clearly it's right in the center, and it has to have a place at the board level at strategic discussions. Um, at your from your perch, Manish, where you have to look at different businesses, different geographies, global geographies. It must be a challenge to have a common strategy for technology, uh, put in place the right kind of governance so that there is some semblance of harmony across the group as well. How have you been, implementing this since you took over?
Yeah, I think great question again. It goes back to the governance model of very large countries. Sometimes, how do you have a good governance in a federated structure? So, as you know, we have multiple businesses. Most of our companies are fairly large in size, and they are listed as well. Whether it's Ultratech, Grasim, Hindalco, Novelis in the U.S., our retail business, our finance business, our other businesses. So it's a very varied. There are different business models and a true conglomerate. They look different, but there are many problems which are very common. And I think in my role, what's important is to find out those commonality, how we can have a unity in diversity kind of a theme. And we realize that there are many things and many common elements where there's a convergence as well, despite having different business models or different sectors in which our companies operate. And so what we are doing is we are following a platform strategy to begin with, where we seed some platforms in certain areas which we believe can be of mutual interest. For example, every business consumes energy. Now, that's something where there's a mutual interest in all the companies. Everyone has some kind of logistics needs. It's a very common interest. Again, every company has to procure material. That's again something very common. And there are also a lot of technologies which I think are going to be more and more commonly used. If we talk of IoT, I think big part of our business will end up using IoT in some way. Even new generation technologies like blockchain, AR, VR, again, are something which most of our businesses will use. The usage and the form may change, but underlying technology may not be very different. Again, there are a lot of apps for which, again, each business will need for democratization of technology, and you don't need to create from scratch every time. So again, things around low code platforms is again a very interesting thing which we are dabbling with. So platforms is one where we give Lego pieces to all the businesses and say, hey, why don't you pick up a few which make sense for you, and deploy it. So it cuts down on their initial investments, cuts down on their technology search, and I think in some way you start synergizing the power of group. So that's a model I'm propagating a lot, and still in.
But this platform approach, does it help? Because today what we see even within a company, I'm not even referring to your group, which is, as you said, a federated structure with multiple companies. Even within a company, as use of technology enhances or increases, the head of HR will use a certain solution, the head of marketing will use a certain solution, the supply chain head would use a certain solution, and sometimes the biggest challenge is to bring all of them together under one head to make it sound like this is still a one company, but then you have to deal with some multiple companies. So is your platform approach able to overcome these challenges with this idea?
Yeah, of course. In fact, that's the whole idea, that you don't want to create either big monolithic applications which are not talking to each other, or small disparate solutions which also don't talk to each other. So I think this is somewhere in the middle, where you make sure there's a well-architected framework to use technology, in an organization, and the core or the building blocks. You don't need to reinvest and reinvent the wheel there, but of course processes will be different in some way, business by business. But we can of course find a lot of common grounds, and one company can learn from the other. And one use case can be, while we deploy it across horizontally in the same business as well as cross business as well. And that's what we are seeing. Plus, at the same time, my team also runs an accelerator. We have many very exciting startups. So we are looking at outside in as well. And these are some very smart folks who have developed some wonderful solutions. And I think one of my roles is to ensure that we welcome them truly. When I say welcome them, not only sign up with them, but really get them embedded. And that requires, again, a thought in terms of how you will create a technology framework and architecture to receive them. Because
that's a great idea, Manish. It seems to me that the biggest concern about a large conglomerate like yours is that perhaps they're not agile enough, perhaps they're not innovative enough, because you're just so busy running the huge machine that you don't have the time for experiment. But with the accelerator and with the younger companies that you work with, has it helped you adopt far more interesting solutions and ideas which perhaps you could not have done? Is there an example or two you could share?
No, absolutely. In energy space, I don't want to name those companies right now, but we have some very exciting startups, and anybody who wants to know can write to me offline. And they have worked very well in helping solve energy problems. In terms of energy optimization, etc. We have startups in logistics who have again worked very well. So multiple areas in of course in our entire manufacturing setup. There are multiple solutions. There are companies which are writing specific algorithms for a particular business problem, and we are using them. So the best part is, I think today in technology, especially in large organizations, one should not try to reinvent the wheel. There are enough smart people out there who are developing point solutions, in the cloud. And I think we have to start thinking how you can tap into what you call the collective energy around you. And that collective energy makes, a lot of sense in today's time. And I think that's where we'll see digital going forward, that no single person creates everything, but you have to start thinking of an ecosystem. And the challenge for organizations will be, how do you create the right architecture and the framework to tap into that ecosystem? Because without that governance, without that thought process, again, it might become quite messy if you don't give a thought right now.
So that's very well said, Manish. Technology has two dimensions, in the sense that your existing business models, you use technology to make it more efficient, transparent, cost effective, etc. And of course, far more valuable to your client and customer base. And second is that you have a technology and you say, well, let me create a completely new business model because the technology allows me to do that, right? Because one is about implementing what you already have, and second is about creating which didn't even exist. So there is a legacy part of it, and there is a futuristic part of it. Any thoughts and examples or experience in creating completely new business models using technology that you would have done with the group?
No, great question, Pranjal. And We are dabbling with certain ideas at this point in time, around some of the forays the group can make, if we find the right business model which makes sense. So I leave it there. But for sure, we are thinking on those lines, that can technology help us to create some new businesses, completely new businesses. And by the way, there is one example which I can take. We have an aluminum business, which makes aluminum. But we just launched recently, our Windows business called Eternia. That's a very digital business. Anybody can go on the web, configure it, get it commissioned, etc. So it's not purely digital because there's a product inside, which is a physical product, but our interactions are completely digital, and it's a new business, one of its kind, which is out there. And I think we'll have similar initiatives going forward. And of course, they open up very new opportunities for us in terms of new possibilities.
Let's talk about security, Manish, because you referred to that earlier. And for any group, small or big, I think security is absolutely of great concern. So from a fewer points where you have to manage security, you have an explosion of number of points from which the company can be breached, data can be breached, information can be breached. The number of options is equal to as many employees you have who are working from various locations, and this is something which I think it's a global concern. But approaches like user behavior analytics and such are now becoming important for companies to be able to manage and automate the security as well. What has been the approach at your group?
Yeah, no, I think we are looking at security. We already have invested quite some amount, but now we are looking at it completely, in a new light. And I think if you look at security, it's like an orchestra, where the multiple instruments, multiple players, and all of them need to be in sync to make it sound good. And if you have a failure somewhere, the entire symphony breaks down.
Right.
So the question is, how do you get them in tandem? And it takes practice, of course. It takes the right instruments and a good orchestrator. So I think having this holistic approach in terms of getting your arms around, right from detection to prevention, the full life cycle, and thinking of your vulnerabilities goes a long way. The big problem in security, unlike many other areas, is that there are so many technologies one has to assemble to make sense end to end that sometimes it can be mind-boggling, And also, you don't have one single player or partner or group who can say, okay, I'll fix it. So I think you need a very strong internal team for that, and we have a very bunch of very bright people who look into it, and they really put their thought in terms of what kind of composition we are looking at, and how do we start looking end to end. Here, the game is truly to look end to end. While we get into execution, which is a great idea, but a lot of thought must get into getting your structures right. Whether it's your network segmentation, how do you design your network, how do you look at your endpoints, how do you take care of your servers, how do you take care of your web assets, and how do you take care of employees, how do you take care of privacy. So you start listing it down, and I think it can go on and on. I can speak on it for hours, but the key here is to also put the money in the right areas, because there is no unlimited money and we are in the business, so we are not a security company. But
that's exactly the point I was coming to. When you can use process automation and several other ways to manage and monitor security, but at some point, any technology that you deploy needs to justify a return on investment, and that's one of the questions that one of our audience members has sent to us. That how do you what are the best ways to measure and calculate return on investment in technology applications?
No, for us, to be honest, I have a long list of my portfolio and the projects. And believe me, against each line item, there's a value number. Okay, so there's nothing which doesn't have a value. And the value can be in multiple forms. Value could be risk avoidance, let's say in case of security. All companies know the cost of a breach. They all know if they look at some empirical data, they can easily find out how many breaches happen or near misses happen, et cetera, in last few years or whatever. And then they can have a target. For example, if they have 30 incidents and each incident, I'm just taking a number, costs you 1 crore, you know that if I don't do anything, I'm likely to lose 30 crores for sure, and I may even lose more. But I fix it, I reduce by half, I save 15 crores. And then question is, can I invest 5 crores to save 15 crores? Yes, of course. So I think we have to get down to maths in every case. And I'm sure whether but the idea is the mindset. Once you say that, listen, what's the problem I'm solving? You'll get the numbers. If you just think that I need to deploy technology because I'm getting starry-eyed about something new and cool, you won't get it. But the moment you put the problem, and problem may not be even today's problem could be a future. So I'm not even saying that you follow the current problem. You may say, hey, listen, I want to grow, or I want to become best in class, I want to differentiate, I want to do whatever. So you may not call it problem, but you may call it an opportunity. And you say, okay, what if I do it with technology? What does it mean to me? And I'm sure once you get down to these maths, you find the numbers. And I can tell you the numbers are the easiest to find in technology world today, because still it's the industry itself is nascent. We have about 30 years old industry in some way since we've all started dabbling into it. So it's a very nascent industry. There's still a lot of juice in terms of what technology can do. And to me, if somebody wants to do a real problem solving through technology, business case is not the most difficult one. And it's actually to be more creative or more imaginary, to think how you can do it and do it well. But in my own experience, I've never faced an issue of business case ever in my last 20 years of technology, leadership.
Now, that's also, I think, a tribute to your own expertise and your maturity in managing this, Manish. But you said something very interesting, which I think is a great learning for all those who are listening in, that putting and ascribing a value to every effort and every application that you have, I think helps you clarify your mind as well, and having a very clear focus on the objective, the final results that you're seeking, and then putting a value that what can you achieve, and therefore the business case for technology is so much better. But the more you deploy technology, the more information you get about your company, and I think that's a holy grail for a lot of people, to understand their own companies and operations, and which is where data analytics comes in. And a question we have from the audience is about what is your plan and strategy for data analytics, again, for a diverse group like yours?
Yeah, so the good news is we have very specialized data and analytics group headed by a person at my level, is my peer, and so the job is so that's the importance the group has placed on data analytics. And there's some very, very smart people who are looking into data science, who are looking into all the new, I would say, artificial intelligence and algorithms, and they work very closely with my teams, to ensure that we are never missing the analytical layer. For example, if I run the Industry 4.0 program, I get some very, very smart data scientists to think about how we can optimize, or how we can get insights from the data we capture. So we are embedding analytics piece in each of our initiatives, so to make it more smart, because if you stop at transactional part only, you will not get the full value. So in everything you do, I think there's always a placeholder for analytics. And I think analytics one is, okay, what has happened in the past, which is easier one, but getting true insights and getting some kind of predictability is where the game lies today. And I think we all must start thinking in terms of, when I set up any system of any kind, what kind of data I will generate and what kind of value I can create by analyzing it. So, and a lot of value addition, and in fact, when you asked about business case, will come from that piece, because that's the cherry on the cake, and or the icing on the cake. But we should never miss it, because I'm sure nobody wants to eat a boring, plain vanilla these days. So,
I'll come to the last question, Manish. We just have 2-3 minutes left. There was a while when there were companies and there were technology companies, but today the view is that in the near future, and if not already, every company is a technology company, will be a technology company. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think the problem was technology was seen, in many places. Fortunately, not for me in my own experience, but as a support function. Sometimes, that okay, there are things happening, and somewhere you are helping, and that's a start of what you call the journey. And every industry has followed that path. So where you start automating it, you start digitizing some form, etc., which I think has happened quite a bit. And now suddenly the power of, once the data starts getting generated, what you can do with it. So, and of course, that's where the entire world has woken up and says that, hey, we can do a lot more. A lot of new business models have evolved. A lot of companies have started leveraging their own data, etc. So I would still feel there'll be products. So, but a lot of interactions will get more digital. There'll be new businesses which only thrive on, information, which of course will get created, and everybody would like to do that. In manufacturing, classically, there were always 4 elements, and me being an industrial engineer, always learned that there is a man, machine, material, and methods which you need to deal with. I think we need to add D there as well. There'll be 4 M's and 1 digital, which will be as important as methods, and maybe methods may get replaced by digital in some way. So I think we have to change that equation. That's where I think a lot of companies will not start thinking it is something in parallel, but something as part of their ways of working all the time. So I think that debate is slowly getting over. But since the pace of change is so high right now and so fast, I think everybody's in a catch-up game. And that's why there's so much of pressure on this community as well, because they have to deal with some very evolved expectations, I would say so. And also we have a big community, which is a technology community, which also sometimes creates a hype, around the whole thing. So we need to be more grounded, see in our context, and be practical. But I think there's so much of value in technology that any step we take in this direction will give us only positive results.
Thank you, Manish. I think that's been a fantastic learning session in the last few minutes that you've shared with us. You've said it very rightly that, we are in many ways in uncharted waters. Pandemic apart, the fact is that technologies, even before the pandemic, technology was, moving so rapidly. But as many business leaders like you would have said, that what we've done in the last few months wouldn't have happened in the next few years if not for the pandemic. So I guess the challenges you face are tremendous, but also I think your maturity and agility are really what will ensure that corporate India and business leaders and businesses can continue to navigate these slightly difficult times that we are going through. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Pranjal. It's a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you so much to you both, Mr. Pranjal and Mr. Manish Gupta, for being with us today. I would like to thank our partners, Accenture, Automation Anywhere, Root Mobile, and Tata Teleservices. Another thank you goes out to all our attendees who are here with us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you for the lovely session.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Good day.